Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso and today I'm gonna make my case about one of the longest and strongest hand traps Yu-Gi-Oh has ever seen. I really think this is a card that you should consider at least in your side deck, especially when you take a look at how Yu-Gi-Oh's meta is currently evolving. First of all, the obvious, there's Moon Charmies everywhere. Even if you only get used to play Yu-Gi-Oh on a Monday night, like the eight local tournament in 3 rounds, even in those scenarios, you're gonna need to face those Moon Charmies at least once, or even twice at least. So those cards are a reality at the moment of playing tournaments in Yu-Gi-Oh, even at the lowest level. So all the decks that are trying to constantly play those kind of tournaments need to adapt to those cards, and you can see how the current meta is prioritizing other decks than was worse before those Mucharmis over decks that before those Mucharmis were leaving a better board with less resources, etc. The biggest example being Jubel Fiensmith. Like that deck just got killed for both Mucharmis, you know. A second thing to consider is Dominus Impulse being, almost objectively speaking, the best card in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. So the implications of a card that it's labeled like that are not only around the restrictions but the effects, right? However, for the purpose of this video, we're gonna only focus on its restrictions. Which means that we're not only going to focus on the light, wind, earth restriction after you activate the card from the hand, but the restrictions that enable you to activate the card in the first place, which is that your opponent needs to control a card on their field, in order for you to be able to activate or to attempt to activate the card from the hand, which is going to be relevant, I swear. The thing to consider is the meta environment that you're playing right now in the tournaments you're planning to play. Like, regardless if it's locals, regionals, or YCSs, like Snake Eyes, Asamina, or Snake Eye variants, and the Asamina variants are the most relevant and the better decks that you can have the chance to play right now. And after the Bonanza, those decks are more available than before, so it's very probable that you're gonna face at least one of them, regardless of the tournament you're planning to play. Another Bonanza consequence is going to be the Mermal Atlantean deck, because as you can see from other people's videos, like Pack, people are actually trying to take this deck to YCSs and are actually topping. Like Kamal topped the 2 latest YCSs, like the remote one and Guayaquil, playing Mermal. So this deck is only gonna get played more and more, especially after Bonanza, when a lot of the reprints needed are available, like just there, right at the corner. So our first example is going to be the Asamina engine with the usual start, like they're gonna activate Deception, they're gonna send any monster as cost, so they can add the Hollow Asamina, they're gonna activate it, they're gonna send the Deception, they're gonna summon the Murciélago, and then they're gonna add whatever they don't have in the hand, the Wanted, Original, blah blah blah, they're gonna play, blah blah blah. Okay, so before, they were using the Murciélago first as a buddy for the Moon of Closed Heaven Sky, so they can go to the Fiensmith engine after there is Summon Silvera. However, now, because of how vulnerable that play is to the Bestial, and because of Dominus Impulse being a lot better than the whole Fiensmith engine, they decided to not risk the Murciélago in the graveyard and use it instead from the field, so the Hollow Asamina could return to the hand. Because remember, the effect from the graveyard of the spell is not only targeting monsters in the graveyard, but the field. So this play is available since the beginning. You activate it, you return it, and then your opponent don't have at any point the Asamina monster in the graveyard, so they can chain the Bestial to it. Therefore, you can summon then the Silvera and keep going with the other engine that Murciélago allows, so the Bestial can do actually nothing. Now, let's compare this point of the combo with DD Crow instead of the Bestial. Now they are activating the Hollow Asamina in the graveyard, targeting the Murcielago on the field to play around the Bestial. Now, if at that point we chain the DD Crow and we target the Hollow Asamina, this will naturally get banished. But because we are not negating the card, it's still going to attempt to resolve as much as it can. And if you read the card, first it's going to return the target monster, and then it's going to attempt to return from the graveyard to the hand. So it's going to attempt to resolve, and the Murcielago is going to return to the extra deck. However, the Hollow will stay in the banish for the rest of the duel, because there's no way, at least in the way that it's played, to return it from the banish. Our next example is going to be with the usual starter of the Snake Eye engine, Snake Eye Ash, regardless of how it got summoned, like whatsoever. Like, there's 10,000 different combos that you already seen with this card, so I'm not gonna try to cover any specific counter to all of them, but I'm going to try to show some specific interactions that you can try to attack with DD Crow that are very common in almost, if not all, of the Snake Eye Ash combos lineups. Now, in order to do that, we're gonna try to focus around the Flambers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey Parnaso, if you're talking about specific interactions, which means interactions that can be replaced in the Snake Eye Ash combos, because everybody knows that the biggest strength of the deck is how easily replaceable a lot of its interactions or attempts to combo are. Therefore, if you try to attack the specific ones that can be replaced, especially if those specific interactions are the main ones in the combo, then you can actually attack the deck in a way that it's very difficult to replace. So if you're talking about that, Parnaso, and you're mentioning Flambers, and you're trying to convince me that DD Crow is better than the Bestials, then why are you saying all of this crap? Because if I thinking what you're going to about to say, then you're going to mention the specific interaction of Flambers putting the IP Masquerena from the graveyard as a spell trap zone, right? No, I'm not talking about that, because obviously in that scenario the Bestial is a lot better. I'm talking about the first effect of the Flambers. If it goes to the graveyard from field or the hand, can special summon 2 level 1 fires from the graveyard. I'm trying to talk about that effect because in order for your opponent to activate that, this card needs to go to the graveyard. And that first effect is almost what it's used the most in a lot, if not all, the Snake Eye Ash combo lineups, which means that the Flambers is almost always going to be vulnerable to the DD Crow if they risk it enough, which is almost going to happen. Now, this almost always happens in almost all the 10,000 combos that you already saw from these cards, because a lot of people, if not all of them, are assuming that the Flambers is protected in the graveyard in turn 1 when they're trying to combo, because it's a fire, right? And if it's a fire, then you can bestial the cards, because bestials can only banish light and dark monsters. However, if they construct the combo like that and they just DD Crow their ass in the Flambers, they can lose a lot, if not all the lineup, depending on how the combo goes. But regardless of that, they're gonna lose a lot of advantage, because a lot of decks now, if not all of the versions, play one Flambers only. And if you're attacking that and they were assuming that they weren't able to, for example, use the other effects later, then they're gonna lose follow-up, the rest of the combo, etc. Now we're gonna focus on the Mermaid Atlantean deck. Obviously, against that deck, the Pistols are useless because they're all water monsters. So let's going to focus only about how DD Crow can accomplish, which is attack one of the strongest skills that deck has, which is the water monsters activating at resolution because they were caused to activate another water monster effect, which allows a lot of resources, advantage, pushes, constructions, etc. Now, the scenario when that deck shine the most with this approach is the normal summon of the princess, because it's going to add something by costing something from the deck, and that what you're costing from the deck, which is basically whatever you want in the idea of the deck, is going to allow you actually another play plus what you're actually adding by the effect. So we're gonna try to attack that main idea, or at least the main monster that they need to cost in order to make their biggest plays, which I think is going to be this one. Why? First, because it's a teleport from the deck, which is really huge, like you need to try to avoid that. Second, because it's the one that allows in the field to cost another water monster, which allows further plays because they're costing another Mermaid or Atlantic or whatever, and has the plus of become any other water monster on the field with him as a 7. So it allows the deck to make their stronger water rank 7 monsters that the deck was lacking before, because the idea of a level 3 allowing exit summons of rank 7s is very strong for the deck. So we're trying to attack that too. And how? Diddy Crow is banishing the card. Like, it's not an Ash Blossom. We are not ashing the effect to summon from the deck at resolution of the princess. We are chaining the Diddy Crow to the effect of the princess, because the biggest weakness of cards being cost, or cards needing to be cost in order to activate their effects, is that they're at resolution, they still need to be costed by the card, which means that if in resolution the card is not there, or the card was affected in any other way, like was a special summon, was removing, was returning to the deck, whatever, at the resolution is not going to be available to activate, which means that before the effect that caused the card resolves, this card is vulnerable. Whatever card that was caused is vulnerable, which means that if you attack it at that point, they're gonna lose the resource. And if that deck is heavily built around the idea of costing, or costing a specific card like this, you can do a lot of damage just by banishing it, because they are going to need to generate this card again, which is a strong idea of the deck. Like, the idea that you can send this from the graveyard as cost is very strong, but if you attack that idea, have to do that again is going to be really difficult. As you can see, Diddy Crow is a really strong card against a lot of very important decks in the meta. With that in mind, I just wanted to add the idea of drawing multiples. As you can see, Diddy Crow is good against the Asamina engine and against the Snake Eye engine. So if you draw multiples, you can use one against each and you're gonna be just fine. So the idea of drawing multiples, because it is not once per turn, is not something that actually is gonna hurt you, because the Mermaid is still gonna attempt to cost cards. So if you draw 2 of them, you're gonna still mess with the numbers in the graveyard for that monster that they need 5 waters in graveyards to summon with. You're gonna still take the resource that they believe were going to be safe where they were trying to cost it, etc. So you can play, like, replace, for example, your Magnamud and your True Wizard in the side for 2 of these, and you're gonna be fine, if not better. Even if you were playing 3 Bestials in the side deck, you can even replace those with 3 of these, and I'm pretty sure that you're gonna be doing well, because another really big argument to play this card is Dominus Impulse. Not because it's a dark, because obviously that's something that the Diddy Crow shares with the Bestials, but because if you are in any kind of scenario when you need to do the Diddy Crow first, even if that scenario shares the availability of the Bestial to replace the Diddy Crow, being the Bestial a better option usually, now that Dominus Impulse is in the game, you have to consider how hurtful it is for you to leave a card on the field. For example, if you Bestial someone and you summon the monster, and then you attempt to and then you attempt to activate Nibiru, in this scenario with the bestial, they're gonna be available to chain the domino symbols because you control a card on the field. If the scenario is different and you make the BD Crow first and then the Nibiru, the domino symbols is gonna be stuck on the hand because there's still not a card on the field in order to domino symbols being available to activate it from the hand. And I think that's a huge consideration when you think about this being the best card in the game right now. Like, you have to think about this card in any choice that you make for your deck. And this interaction, I think, is a big plus for the Crow, considering the current meta. With that being said, I hope I made my case to you about justifying the yapping in favor of TD Crow on November 2024. If you like it, please share and subscribe.